Joining us for more on the Minister's appearance before the Justice Portfolio Committee is Dr Ebrahim Harvey. He's a political analyst. Good afternoon, Dr Harvey. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So finally, the Minister came to give an account on that specific loan from Gundo Wealth Solutions. She maintains, of course, that she didn't act improperly in her request of the loan from Gundo, which had been paid, or rather Gundo was a specific company that received commissions from VBS for securing investments from municipalities. What did you make of her statement before Parliament today?
Well, there's lots of points of tension and controversy in what you said, and the truth, the veracity of it will only come out from a thorough investigation by the Hawks and the police and so on, But, the fact that the Minister of Justice is appearing before the relevant portfolio committee is very significant. I think after the ANC lost power and then the GNU and the DA in office now with them, I think things have shifted. I think this is healthy for our democracy. I think that she appeared in Parliament, we have to see what they decide on, whether the charges are laid. But some bigger questions, I think, that need also to be probed, and you can see what was said earlier about, she's under pressure to step aside, which is what this whole debate is going to come down to, because in fact you have to then ask yourself what's happened to Betty Mantashe and the President himself, because remember that the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee found that Pala he had a prima facie case to answer to. So who to step aside and not to step aside? And then don't forget, in the past week, the former President Thabo Mbeki spoke to this matter. I don't know if you're aware of that. Mbeki said we have to go beyond this thing of whether charges have been laid. He said, and I think nobody is picking up on that, your analyst. Mbeki made a very important intervention early part of this week. He says depending on the circumstances and if there's fairly credible evidence, even if charges formally are not laid, he says it's duty, if you're a sound, good member of the ANC, responsible, you should step aside. Whether that will now inform a debate in the ANC and they will revisit the step-aside rule, I don't know. Because it has implications for Betty Mantashe, even for the President himself regarding Pala.
But specifically, Doctor, when it comes to Minister Simelane, Glenys Breitenbach of the Democratic Alliance went on to say, for her at least, there's a glaring conflict of interest between the Justice Minister and the NPA. She says the Minister does have some sort of influence on the NPA. Of course, the Minister denied that, but she went on to support this assertion by looking back at history, where the NPA's advocate Vusi Pikoli ended up losing his job after refusing to take instruction from Minister Bridget Mabandla back then not to pursue warrants of arrest for the National Police Commissioner, the late Jackie Slebe. So in this instance, are you of the view that that assertion, that possibly a justice minister could have some level of influence on the NPA?
Well, formally they'll tell you that no. The Department of Justice has no influence on who the NPA prosecutes and on what basis. But real politics will tell you, I think that, there must probably be pressure brought to bear upon the NPA by the Ministry of Justice, untoward pressure. I think it exists, despite them pleading that it's never the case, that it's a completely, NPA is completely independent. And we've seen what has happened with the NPA, It's not been independent. And the NPA is, really, lots of things have happened in the NPA that calls attention to how the NPA functions. But
the NPA would argue that now, the NPA we're seeing now is a highly independent NPA. So they would argue that it's actually not the fact that in this instance, if ever there was a level of pressure, undue pressure on the NPA by any political head, it's something that wouldn't be happening now.
Well, we have to see what's going to happen now with the investigation. That's the important thing. It's going to answer this question. But, one would hope that the Department of Justice, the Ministry's office, won't have any put any pressure or have any bearing on the independence of the NPA to decide who they prosecute or not and on what terms. But I think, you need to pay attention to what Mbeki is saying. And I seem to agree with him, but if you agree and the ANC reviews this policy of step aside on the basis of what intervention of Mbeki, you're going to really have lots of problems, because then you're going to look at Kweli Mantashe, you're going to look at the minister, the president himself in terms of what the parliamentary panel found about the Pala report. So it opens up a can of worms, really. And I think maybe at the end of the day, that is where we should be going, because I think Mbeki's intervention is based on what he's experienced. That there are some people who are getting away literally with murder because they're pleading what? Innocent. They're saying what? No charges have been laid against us.
But nevertheless, as you stated there, Doctor, that at least you laud the process. You felt that what you saw today was actually proof that there is a vibrant democracy, because there was some sort of an accountability exercise. I just want, in closing, to also just get a sense from you on, again, the DS Glenys Breitenbach's statement that there's also a conflict of interest on the part of just the loan itself, where Gundo would be, according to her, would have been more than happy to accommodate an executive mayor with a loan because they were being paid handsomely by VBS for bringing investments from municipalities. Do you believe, according to you, that possibly a conflict of interest was there, or at least existed in that respect here, that for a Gundo to be the one that offers the loan means that it would have been far more easier, at least for an executive mayor, to receive a loan from Gundo, because Gundo was being paid some sort of a commission by VBS to entice these municipalities?
There was so much corruption with VBS and its relationship with municipalities. I mean, it's a mess what has happened there. So, in fact, with the benefit of hindsight, you could argue it was a conflict of interest, and you can see what her argument is. But at the end of the day, what is the most important question that she needs to answer? And I have not seen it being put to her today in Parliament, is, was she aware of where the loan money came from? That is the key and critical question. And she will obviously plead innocence that is the question. Was she aware? And if you talk of conflict of interest, it will depend on what answer you get to this question of whether she had any knowledge of where the loan money came from. It's a key and critical question that the investigation has to address.
She did state, though, that as far as she's concerned, the money did not come from VBS. But we'll leave it there, Doctor. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That's Dr Ebrahim Harvey, political analyst, speaking to us on Justice Minister Thembi Simelane's appearance before the Justice Portfolio Committee on her loan from Gundo Wealth Solutions, which brokered deals between the municipalities and VBS.